without missing a beat, certainty, 100%. I had been diagnosed with BPD and been medicated and gone to the right therapies and actually went through all of that. There's no way I would have gone on testosterone. I don't know about top surgery. I consider my top
Sure.
surgery, I consider it a body modification surgery. I don't consider it gender affirming.
Right on.
Um,
Right
and
on.
I would went with like a reduction or done top surgery, but never would have went on testosterone. Like it was so bad.
Hey, everybody, I caught myself another one. I'm so excited today because I have a really amazing guest. But before we move forward, again, I'm going to ask you to like, subscribe, comment, share, do all those things because it really does help this channel. And I see the growth of it. And it's all because of you, everybody out there seeing what's happening here. So today I have a beautiful guest, and her name is Parker. And so, Parker, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll move forward?
All right. Well, my name is Parker, like Buck said. I'm 30 years old, and I'm in Ohio. I thought I was trans starting at the age 16, so quite some time ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And I started to detransition, um, I would say medically like a year and a half ago, but I was still out as trans. And then like socially into my family and everything about 6 months ago is when I
Oh.
finally made that decision. So
Oh, wow.
yeah,
So 15 years kind of in
yeah,
transition.
yeah. So
Wow,
15 years.
fascinating.
Yeah. I
Wow.
when I was a little kid, I was always a tomboy, right? Like I
Mhm,
always
mhm,
wore masculine clothing.
mhm,
I hated anything feminine.
mhm.
My mom pulled me aside when I was like 9 or 10 and was like, "Do you like girls?" And I really didn't know what that meant. And I was just like, I don't know. Like, no. Um, and so like it was always like I always wanted to be the brother when I played games and I always wanted to be the boy. So that was always a thing in my life. And
Yeah.
I also suffered um CSA at a very young age,
What's CSA?
from child sexual assault or abuse.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's
It's
like
okay. I just didn't know
it's the
if I could
nice way
say
of
that.
yeah, no, whatever, it's for real. I didn't know that they call it CSA, but it's the nice way to
Yeah.
say it, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I'm so
So,
sorry. Oh
yeah,
gosh.
so that was a really crazy time in my life. The that took place from ages like 5 or 6 until I was 13 or 14, and I was unaware because I was unconscious at a best friend's house, and I spent like every day there. And yeah, so like, and the person was like a second father, so it really messed me up around the ages like 14, 15. And I only like,
Wow.
I'm not laughing, but like I've told my
Right on.
story so much as far as that's concerned. So like it
Yeah.
doesn't, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? I'm just like, yeah, it
No, I
happened,
know.
So like,
No, I mean,
that was
that
crazy.
I mean, you're laughing because you don't wanna cry. I completely
Yeah.
understand how you we all handle sort of our trauma in that way, but I just wanna extend my, my sort of feelings to you that, "Oh, I'm so sorry."
Mhm.
It just hurts my it hurts my
Yeah.
feelings. It does. I
Yeah.
hate it. I
No.
hate it.
Yeah, I hate it too. And so, that happened. And at that point in my life, I had kind of like around 14, I
Mhm.
was still kind of a tomboy, but like I was growing my hair out. I was trying to be girly. I was trying to be feminine. It was really
Mhm.
weird because I looked so uncomfortable in like dresses and all of those
Mhm.
things because I was uncomfortable.
Sure.
Um, and then I met my ex, my kid's dad. I met
Mhm.
him when I was 16,
Okay.
and I had short hair, kind of tomboyish, but I that was kind of the style too back then where I was at, so it wasn't that weird.
Yeah.
Um, and then through high school, I when I was 16, I actually typed into Google, um, why do I feel and look like a boy, but I'm a woman? And back at that time, the only out trans person was Chaz Bono. Like
Yeah.
that was it. Like
Yeah.
that, I didn't have
That's
YouTube and
right.
TikTok and all of that,
That's right.
right?
Thank God.
So
Thank God.
yes, thank God, because I was like, okay, so I must just be trans. And then
Mm.
I was like, this makes sense. I feel like a boy, and that's what it is. And uh, I hated my body, but I hated my body because I was overweight and like I didn't feel comfortable in regular bras and tight clothing and stuff like
Mhm.
that, you know? But
Mhm.
I didn't
Mhm.
realize that at the time. At the time, I was like, oh, I hate my chest because of this, this, and this.
That's right.
And so through high school, um, I went by Jace. That was my first name of many, of course.
Mhm.
Um,
That's
and
right.
yeah, um, and I kept changing my name, but went by he, him, and got a lot of crap at school because it was not accepted back then. You know, it,
No.
it was not accepted. And no one really understood. And I didn't try to go in like the boys' room or anything
Uh-huh.
because, like I said, it wasn't as common. So, like, that would have never been okay.
Right.
Um, and then once I graduated, I found out this new thing called non-binary, and I was like, "That must be what I am, right? Because like, I'm not a
Wow.
boy, but I'm not a girl, so I'll just be non-binary." And
That's
so I stuck with that for some years, um, and then I knew I wanted biological children, right? Like, I had
Mhm.
this severe want for biological children, and
Mhm.
so I had put off doing hormones because I knew while you can have kids on testosterone, it makes things harder and it does things to the body. And so I was like, no, I'm not going to do that. So I had my first child in 2016. Then I had my second child in 2018. And I ended up getting my tubes tied for medical reasons after my second child. So
Mhm.
um,
Okay.
after that point, I was like, okay, well, I know I'm not going to have kids anymore. And this
Uh-huh.
is about 2019 now, right? So
Okay.
2019, TikTok blows up. And what does it start blowing up with first? Trans people,
Trans.
specifically trans men, right? Now, I was 27, so I
Okay.
was older,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
And I could make my own medical decisions and everything. And
Mhm.
my ex was like, "You've always wanted to go on testosterone. You've always said that you were a man. Like, you totally should do it," and like hyped me up. And so I was
Wow.
like, "Right, yeah, I'm gonna do that." So I went to a LGBTQ clinic that we have, and I went in,
Mhm.
and she asked me, a little bit about my childhood, and I said, "Oh, I always wanted to be a boy, and I was always the boy." And she was like, "Okay, checks out. You're trans. You want your first shot? 15 minutes. Informed consent. 15 minutes.
Just
No
fucking sick.
therapy, nothing." And
Wow, dude.
I
Ugh.
even have insurance, right? And they didn't make me
Yeah.
go through therapy. She said, she's like, "Yeah, one of the side effects could be a stroke, but like I've only had one patient do that, like have that, and he went back on testosterone, so like you'll be fine." Um,
What? Oh my god. This is
yeah.
absurd.
It's insane. It really is
What?
upsetting. She didn't tell me all of the effects that would not uh go back to normal if I stopped. And she really didn't describe like bottom growth and stuff. So like when that started happening, and it happened fast for me,
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, I
Yeah.
was like, what's happening to me?
Wow.
Um, and then I started having uterine atrophy. And the reason I knew what it was because I found a video that you posted talking about it. Because
Wow.
she didn't tell me what that was. And I was
Wow.
having, I mean, these insane pains that were throwing me to the ground. I
That's
was
right.
crying. I was like, I've never been like this. And
How
when I
long were you
contacted her,
on
she's like,
testosterone? How long were you on the testosterone before the
total.
oh, well, when the cramp started? So,
When the
yeah,
cramp
so the
started, I was like
about a ye
6 months on.
that's it. Holy
I was
crap.
on
Okay.
6 months. Yeah.
Oh
And
my
I was on a
god.
decent dose because I started on 0.25 every
Yeah.
other week. And then
Oh, wow.
then I was at 0.50 every week. Like,
Wow.
I went up fast. Yeah,
Fast.
so
So you
when
tell
I
so
started
I'm sorry to cut
doing
you off.
that,
So you
yeah.
started cut
No, you're fine.
so you went back to the clinic and you told the doctor or
Yeah, I told the doctor, I was like, "Hey, listen, I'm having these insane cramps. I heard something
right.
like uterine atrophy. Like, is this what this is?"
Mhm,
And she said,
mhm.
"It's rare, so it's probably just your body sorting itself out." And I was like,
Oh my god. Oh
"Okay,
my god.
like, I feel
Thank
like I'm
you.
gonna die." Like,
Thank you for
what?
saying all of this. Thank you. Thank you. It's
Yeah.
Thank you.
No, because
Everyone needs to hear this. I mean, you're not the only one, but
yeah,
you're one of the only ones stepping up to say this. Holy crap,
yeah,
my friend. Okay,
yeah,
wow. I'm
yeah,
actually like, I hate it. So you're
yeah.
so basically they're telling you, don't worry about it.
Yeah, she's like, "Don't worry about it, you know, it's a that's a very rare thing, it's probably just, you know, your body's adjusting and it'll go away." Well, let me tell you, it never went away.
Okay.
It got worse.
Okay.
I hit 1.5 years, and
Mhm.
I was so right now I weigh about 200 pounds.
Mhm.
So I'm still overweight, but not like I
Mhm.
was. I
Mhm.
was at 250 at my biggest.
Wow.
Um, and I felt extremely tired all the time,
Mhm. Mhm.
super sick. My
Mhm.
mental health was so bad. I mean, so bad. And this is something that I want you to remember because I want to come back to the mental health
Okay,
portion.
great. Great. Great.
But my mental health was the worst it had been, and my dad had just passed away, and
Um,
I was like, I'm so tired of feeling sick. I'm tired of just the pain and all of this. I was like, that's it. Like, I'm not doing testosterone anymore, and I just stopped. And I know I should have talked to my doctor at the time, but I was so angry about everything that was happening that I was like, I'm done. So I stopped. And about 2 weeks after I was off, I was
mhm.
like, I feel so much better. I'm I'm not sick. I'm not angry all the time. I have my emotions back. Like,
Right.
okay, like this is okay. I'm going to
Right.
start working on myself, but I'm still trans. I know I'm trans. Meanwhile, all of this is happening, right? Starting in 2019. That was in
That's right.
2020 that I stopped.
Okay.
Um and I was like I remember this memory. I have this memory so vivid, right? So I'm standing in the bathroom, got out of the shower. I look down and obviously I see my chest. I hadn't had top surgery. And I see hair because I'm Arab and Italian. So I have hair everywhere, right? So I see this hair and I'm like, something's not right, right? And in my mind, I go, oh, it's because I have boobs. That's what it is. So I need to get these removed. And at the time, I had over 500,000 followers on TikTok, and my ex that was like hyping me up had 7 million. And
Huh?
so, with all of that, I had people constantly, I like to call them yes men, because
Right.
they were like, "You're a
Right.
man, you're trans, like you're so handsome." And I was getting all of this validation that I
That's
never
right.
got as a child,
That's right.
right? Because I was
Right.
made fun of for having hairy arms and being boyish and whatever.
Yeah.
So these people are like,
Yeah.
no, trans is normal. Trans is beautiful. You're amazing. You're a man. And so I was like, okay, well, even though I'm having some of these doubts, which by the way, I told the doctor, I kind of am
Mhm.
having these doubts that I'm trans. And she's like, if you're having doubts, you're really trans. And I was like,
My dude,
I'm like, what?
what?
What sense does that make? If I'm having doubts, I'm trans. Like,
Oh
what?
my god.
Okay, I guess. And so I found a doctor in Michigan because I'm in Ohio
Mhm.
that did informed consent for
Mhm.
top surgery.
Mhm.
And I have all these fans that were like, we want to help you. And they helped me raise the money. And then I called up. It was, I don't know if you've heard of Dr. Wolf in Michigan.
God, there's so many now. I'm like, just have no
Okay.
idea. It's
So
crazy. Doctor
Dr.
Wolf?
Wolf, yeah, Dr. Wolf, Dr. Kenneth Wolf, he's in Michigan, and I
Okay.
had seen his results, and I was like, "Oh, I love his results. They're so great." Did not
Mhm.
take into account the fact that I was almost 250 pounds and I had a size triple D chest. Okay. So all of these pictures are these skinny little wafy
That's
boys
right.
with
That's right.
small chests.
That's right.
And I'm like, what? Okay, that's going to
What?
be my results, right? So I call them up and I'm like, hey, I've got the money. You know, here's the $500 deposit. I'll pay you the rest whenever, right before surgery. They're like, okay,
Okay.
we could get you in 2 months.
Mhm.
Okay, 2 months. Cool. Awesome. Uh, Go down there, give him the rest of the money, sign my little informed consent form. He tells me, okay, we're going to do the double incision, obviously, because I have a large chest, and we're going to do liposuction on the sides.
Mhm.
Cool, great. Did not do that. If I'm okay, am I okay to show you? Like, can I show you my scar?
Yeah, I don't see why not. I'm not really sure,
Okay.
YouTube is so weird these days, like, people do so much nonsense, but you know what? Just do it.
I
I'm
know.
gonna
Yeah.
find out with my YouTube
So,
manager.
okay. So this
Thank
is
you.
my top surgery result. These were
Wow.
supposed to be taken away and they were not.
So
I
tell
never
me
got
what
the
that is.
liposuction.
Can you tell me what
This is
that's just
this is
extra.
fat.
Oh
This is
gosh,
fat
my
he did
friend.
not
They
remove.
did not even remove
And
the fat.
no, and then here I have huge keloids and I
My
did everything I was
gosh.
supposed to.
My
And my
gosh.
chest still has fat like here.
My gosh.
Yeah. So when I woke up, first of all, when I woke up, it was in his office and they literally did a 4-hour surgery on me, shoved me in a wheelchair and put me in the car and that was it. Said come back in 2 weeks, you'll get your drains out.
Oh my god, dude. This is so
Yeah.
I'm gonna cry. I am because why? Why would they do that to you?
Yeah.
Why are they
And
so in
now
a
that
hurry?
he does not do revisions anymore.
That
Yep.
should be illegal.
I know. I know.
Holy
I've had people
crap.
tell me like you need to sue him or whatever and I'm like
Yep.
I don't have the
Yep.
money for that, but I would if I
No,
could,
but
you
you're yeah,
know?
now don't you yep, no, you're I'm gonna get you, no, people need to see this. These doctors need to be
Yeah.
held accountable. How first off, he didn't do what he said he was gonna do.
Yep.
Secondly, revision is part of I had my top surgery like 30 years ago. I got revisions, dude. They were part of the package. That is
Yeah.
part That's what a surgeon does. A surgeon wants their stuff to be, people see it. If someone sees this, who would go to a doctor that I'm
No.
so sorry you have to deal with that, friend. It is just
Yeah.
not okay. I mean,
Yeah.
how do you
I
feel? How do you feel?
um well, even though I'm detransitioned, I'm happy that I have a flat chest, right? Because
Okay, okay.
I do like being androgynous. I do like
Yeah,
having a flat chest. My
yep,
clothing fits me in a way that I like.
great,
I'm not in back pain anymore. Could I
great.
have gotten a reduction instead?
Yeah, yeah,
Probably would have been a better way.
probably.
But no,
Yeah,
I feel happy that it's
okay.
flat, but the way that
That's
it
all I care.
looks,
All I care about is
I
that you
hate it.
feel okay. That's
Yeah, no, I feel okay with the fact that I have a flat chest,
okay. I
but
hear you.
not with the way it looks. I hate the way it looks. It's a huge insecurity for me. And I'm
Yeah,
lucky I'm with someone that does not hate the way that it looks and loves my body the
that's
way it
right.
is and everything.
Yeah.
Um, but so I get the top surgery and I go to get the bandages off,
Mhm.
and the
Yeah,
everything.
yeah,
And I look down and I remember thinking, okay, as soon as I get my top surgery, I'm gonna have that reaction that everyone does where they're crying and they're so happy. And I
yeah.
look down and I'm just like, looks about right. Like it didn't
Oh,
give me an emotional response.
yeah.
And I was like, is something wrong with me? Like, why am I not crying? Why am I not overjoyed? I'm just kind of like, yeah, I mean, it's cool, whatever. And so, that was really a weird moment for me.
Yeah.
Um, I don't know if it was because my brain was like, I mean, that's what we want it to look like, or I'm not really sure. But
Right.
it was so weird because I watched all these YouTube videos, like these people are just bawling so happy. And I'm just like, okay. Like,
Do you
I
think
took a
that's a
video and
show? Do you think that's a
I
show
think
they're putting on?
I think it is.
Some of
I
them?
think them I don't think it's all of them, but I do
Yeah,
think that some of them
yeah,
know, like, okay, the camera's recording, I'm gonna
yeah,
really work up and just bawl.
yeah.
You know what I
That's
mean?
right. That's
And
right.
for me, I'm just real. Like I'm gonna give you it as I see it and how I feel.
This story is
Okay.
so heartbreaking, but powerful. I really
Yeah.
have to keep thanking you for being here with me today because my God, you are going to help so many other people. I want to cry, but I'm really stopping myself from crying. So
No,
I'm not kidding. I really feel for you, my friend, and you should have never been put in this position. This is so wrong.
it is. It's very wrong, and um, it's been it's been rough. But so I trying to think of where I
So we left
wanted.
off here. So I know where we left off. I was asking you, pardon me, you saw all the kids on the TikTok going, "Yay, look at my surgery, ha ha ha," and then you're just like, okay, whatever, dude." Right? So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah,
So Okay, so I was like, yeah, there's my surgery, whatever. I tell everyone, obviously I was grateful because they
Mhm,
all helped pay for
mhm,
it.
mhm.
Um, and I continued on testosterone at that point for like another 4 or 5 months, I think. Um,
Okay.
and then that's when I had stopped. At that
Okay.
time, I was still posting a lot of, trans men are men and this, that, and the other. And I honestly was like, I did not align with you or Blair. And
Of
it's
course.
funny. I'm like, I'm like, I'm so different. Um, and so I was posting all those videos and getting all this love. And I mean, some hate, but not a lot, honestly. It was a lot of love. It was a lot of
Mhm.
pushing. Um,
That's right.
but then I also, I had two small kids
Mhm.
and I
Yeah.
found myself going, what would I do if my kid came to me and said they were trans? And I was like, well, first of all, I know that I wouldn't put them on puberty blockers or hormones.
Mhm.
And then I was like, what's going on? Like all of a sudden I'm seeing all of these young trans people and I mean they're everywhere. And I was like, I'm so confused. Like the whole world was like changing and I was thinking about my kids and all of this.
So you were 15 years in transition.
Yeah, 15 years basically in social transition,
Yeah.
wearing bind I wore my binder all day every day to the point where I actually damaged a rib, so I couldn't wear a binder anymore.
Oh, wow.
Um Yeah. So,
Wow.
um,
Okay. So
when
now you're
I
on testosterone, then you go so after the surgery, you go you're still on testosterone, and then you're getting all this love from the kids, and you're awesome, and you're the most amazing person ever, and
yeah,
trans men are men, and the whole mantra, the whole
yeah,
ideology you got sucked right into it.
I got sucked right
Yep.
into it, and at this point, I'm 8 years old, and
Okay.
I'm full force TikTok famous, whatever you want to call it.
Yep. Yep.
And my ex had gotten to the 7.9 million or 7.5 million for living together and raising our two kids.
Oh my
And
god.
yeah, and so he was a huge trans ally because everyone was like, "Oh, like you
Yeah.
dated Parker," and he's
Yeah.
like, "Yeah, like whatever." And
Yeah.
so then I met my partner, and he's pansexual,
Mhm.
and when he met me as a trans man, right?
Mhm.
And we would get into these conversations because we would watch your videos and
Mhm.
Blair's videos.
Mhm.
um the conservative person and I really wasn't that conservative yet, right? Like I
Mhm.
was still in my little woke area or whatever you want to call it. And one time you said, I don't identify as a man, identify, if I'm right, you identify as a transsexual man,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
And I
Well, I
was like,
identify as a man, but my but my history is a transsexual. Yeah, so that's fine. Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
So I was like, no, trans men are men. And he was like, I mean, but trans men are trans men. And like we had this huge fight. I mean, I
Wow.
was so angry and I'm like, what are you talking about? And then I started to watch videos about trans kids and what was happening in the country. And then I started to hear about a few detransitioners. And then
Mhm.
I joined the detransition Reddit.
Right. Oh,
And when I
wow.
joined the detransition Reddit, I was like, everything is making more sense now. I realized that part of my issue was that for the majority, like men. Like I
Yeah,
prefer, right?
yeah, yeah.
And so in my mind, I was being told, like, women can't be masculine and like men because if you're a woman and you like men, you're a lesbian. Like, that's the way my
What?
was working, right? That's what's going on here. And so I was like, wait, I could be a masculine woman and like men and men will like me. Oh, like,
Wow.
okay, all right. So I talked to my partner and was like, this is what I'm thinking. And I said, I'm going to go ahead and try she, her pronouns. I want to keep my name because I love my name.
Mhm.
Um, and I was like, I want to try she, her pronouns and just see Because if it feels terrible and horrible, whatever, then we'll go from there. But if it feels like, oh, whatever, then we know.
Mm.
And that was 6 months ago, and I've never felt more myself.
Oh,
The reason that I said mental health has a huge role in all of this is because I believe we are not focusing enough on the underlying mental health issues. And that is a big part for me. I was recently diagnosed with borderline personality disorder.
oh my God. You're kidding. Do you know how
No.
many kids I talk to? I'm gonna call you a kid, I'm 60. But,
That,
you know how many young people I talk to? Almost every single detrans said the same exact thing you said. Do you know that?
yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah, I went to the mental hospital. I was having a serious mental breakdown because I was on a certain medication that does not work well with people with BPD, but I didn't know I had it, right?
Oh,
So I go to the hospital. I'm undiagnosed this whole time. I knew I had anxiety, depression, OCD, like I knew I had those things,
right.
but anxiety, all of that. I
Yeah,
knew that.
right.
But the B portion, no one ever diagnosed me with that. They tried to diagnose me with dissociative identity disorder,
Okay.
but that was not it. So when I get to the hospital and I'm telling them about my trauma and I'm telling them about how I literally drew a picture and I was like, sometimes I feel like I'm going up. I'm so happy. I'm so happy. And then I just drop at a dime for no reason.
Mhm.
And I'm explaining all my symptoms and they gave me a packet. They said, you have BPD. And I was like, what? And then I read it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. And something about people with BPD is they don't have a sense of self.
Oh, that
You
makes
don't,
total sense.
yes, don't have a sense of self. You don't know who you are. Sometimes, even now that I'm on medication, I'm like, who am I? Like, I don't even know who I am. You know what I mean? And that's a
Yeah,
weird feeling.
yeah.
Um, and you have dissociative episodes where you don't feel like real. And it's a
Mhm,
really weird experience.
mhm.
But once I learned all of that, I'm like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. And so when I got out of the hospital, that's when I started to read more on the detrans Reddit. That's when I started to realize that, okay, yeah, no, I'm not trans. Like this was all like I don't
So,
say it was a waste, but like
uh, my gosh, for such a young person that you are, you've gone through so much. It's
yes.
shocking. So these people, they don't I wanna hit on this mental health stuff because
Yeah.
I think you're a great person. I'm very, very, very huge on mental health care. It's
Yeah.
the number one thing we're missing. And look at you just proved it to me. They're not giving you got a 15-minute intake
Hmm.
at your clinic, and then you were on testosterone. There
Hmm.
was no evaluation of your mental health, where you're coming from, what's happening. None, zero,
Nope.
zero. These people are going to be held accountable, my friend. I am not playing with you. I am disgusted by this whole trans health bullshit. It's a lie. And
Yeah.
and you just prove it. So many of you youngsters prove it to me. And so then eventually you get diagnosed with BPD, which do you think if you
Yes.
would have been diagnosed with that early on, you might not have gone this whole through this whole
Yes. Without missing a beat, certainty, 100%. I had been diagnosed with BPD and been medicated and gone to the right therapies and actually went through all of that. There's no way I would have gone on testosterone. I don't know about top surgery. I consider my top
Sure.
surgery, I consider it a body modification surgery. I don't consider it gender affirming.
Right on.
Um,
Right
and
on.
I would probably went with like a reduction or done top surgery, but never would have went on testosterone. Like it was so bad.
So
Like,
I know a lot of people who have very big breasts. Back in the day, all my les friends, there were some who didn't have, who had big boobs. They all did breast reduction.
yeah.
That's there's nothing weird about that, my friend. It actually isn't healthy to have huge breasts like that. It can make you have back pain, which you said
Oh
you
yeah.
had. Okay, so gosh dang it. So now you're on TikTok, you're a famous star, your lover's a famous star, you're in the whole TikTok trans toxic nonsense. That's ideology to me.
Yeah.
You're all like literally kissing each other's boots and saying how amazing you are. And who wouldn't want that? Who
Mhm.
wouldn't want that? That's
I Yeah, and when you grow up being the outcast and
yes.
not friends and
Yes.
being ugly
Yes.
and you're weird because 'cause you're boyish, and then you
Yes.
grow up and you're told like you're so hot, I want to date you. You have 50 people Snapchatting you, and all these people want your number. You're like,
That's right.
oh yeah, like I'm the shit. Like look at me. And
Jesus
there,
Christ.
it's kind of like I look at myself now back then, and I'm like, that's so gross. Like, who
Yeah.
was I? You know, like
Oh, no,
what?
it's not gross. It isn't. It makes complete sense to me, and I think you have I'm just gonna say you're a gr amazing human because you're willing to talk about this, and you're
Yeah,
willing to be honest about it, and,
yeah,
people aren't being honest about this, and you're one of the very first actually, you are the first influencer who really had a huge following and, is willing to talk about that. I really have to commend you on that, my friend, and it means you care. It actually means you care about what's happening in this. I call it a fake community. I don't believe half those kids are trans, if
no,
even a quarter of them. It's insane.
it's insane, and it breaks my heart because I feel like, I do believe that there are people who are trans youth. I believe that.
Totally.
Right.
Totally.
I also believe that parents are being told that their children are going to harm themselves, so you need to put them on blockers right now. And don't worry, it won't do anything to them long term. And I'm like,
Wow.
why are you doing that? Like, even as a parent,
Yeah.
I love my boys. I would do
Yeah.
anything for my boys. But if they came to me and they said, I want to be a girl or I feel like a girl, the
Mhm.
first thing I'm going to do is ask, okay, why do you feel that way? The second thing I'm going to do is we're going to go to therapy.
Mhm.
And then when you're 18, what you do with your body is I'm not going to stop you. But under my roof, you can socially transition. I don't care about that. Grow your
Yeah.
hair out, paint
Yeah.
your nails, wear makeup, wear girl clothes. I don't care.
Yeah.
Call you another name, call you a different pronoun, fine. But I'm not going to allow you to do something to your body that I don't know what the effects are going to be.
That's right.
I'm not going to let a doctor tell me what the effects are going to be when the doctors didn't tell me everything about mine.
There you go. They're
Seven.
not being honest, dude,
No,
with these and I say dude to everyone. I hope that's
no,
not
does
disrespectful. Pardon me. That's the thing. I have a kid too. I would never put them on beauty blockers. Go fuck yourself. Are you
yeah,
insane? But I think it's so insane that this community and then I see these influencers like as big as you are saying, "Oh, trans kids, but they need beauty blockers. You're a genocide." Like what? What are you talking about? They don't even know what they're saying. They're being told to say it and then they just say it. That's so dangerous.
yes.
My
It's
God.
extreme and it's sad and it hurts my heart because I'm like, people were telling me when I would say that as a trans man back then, when I would say,
Yeah,
as a trans, I would never let my child transition.
yeah.
Oh, you would have thought I lit the world on fire. Like they're like, "What do you mean you wouldn't let them transition? How could you transition if they can't?" And I said, "I transitioned at 27."
That's
Like
right, dude.
my parents, when I came out, I originally came out as a lesbian to my
Mhm,
dad at first
mhm.
because I was confused and I was experimenting.
Sure.
And he was working on his car, right? And I was like, "Hey, Dad, I'm gay." And he looked at me and he went, "No, you're not." Like that was his, like that was it. And I was just like,
Hilarious.
"Okay." Like, all right. Like I didn't that were like,
Yeah,
"That's right, we're gonna get you on these." And my mom
yeah.
was really upset when I had a chest binder. I bought it myself,
Mhm,
and 3 sizes too small because
mhm.
that's all I could figure out. And so, like, these parents that are just like, "Yeah, okay, let's just put you on Lupron or put you on this or put you on that." I'm
It's
like,
crazy. Me and you
"Don't."
are both parents, and we're
Yeah,
both, like, on the same thing. We're like, "What? I would never let my kid just
nope.
randomly take some insane medicine that we all know has insane side effects," and everyone's saying, "No, it's reversible." Like,
Reverse.
uh, it's impossible. That is actually impossible for it to be
Yeah.
reversible. These people are sick. You know what's really freaking me out, my friend, is the growth of it on TikTok.
It's so I got rid of my TikTok, right? The one that had all the followers on it. I got rid of it. My partner and I got rid of social media. I was like, I'm done with this. I'm not doing it, whatever, right? So, recently I went back on because I wanted to see what was going on. And that's where I met Nikki, who you were on her show, right?
Yep, yep.
And on her satire account. So I was going off. I was like, "What do you mean? What?" Like, I was so angry. And she was like, "Wait, did you say you're a detransitioner? You have to talk to Buck. You have to talk to Buck." And I was like, "Okay."
Right on.
But like, I was on there and it was every other video and younger and younger and
Wow.
younger. And like, what's happening? And then someone tried to get into an argument with me because I was speaking my story and I said, just so you know, if you go on testosterone, your bottom growth does not go back to the size it was. It just does not.
Nope.
Person tried to say, yes, it does after a couple of years. And I was like, no. I said, "Part, no, it
Nope.
doesn't. Trust
Nope.
me. I
Nothing
know."
does. Nothing
No,
does. I
no.
mean, did you grow facial hair during your
Yep.
transition?
And I have to
Mm,
shave every day
mhm,
and I hate it.
mhm, mhm,
I have that
mhm.
gross, trans man, splotchy, weird beard
Yep.
thing going on,
Yeah.
and I look at pictures now and I'm like, "What were you doing? Oh my gosh." Um,
Well,
and
you were trying to find your space. I get it. You should have been fucking diagnosed with PBD, and then maybe that would have been. But that being said, when you went off the testosterone, tell me how you started to feel after you got off the testosterone.
so when I originally went off, I was miserable. I
Mhm.
felt sick, and I mean, sicker than I'd ever felt. I was, my emotions were 10 times worse than they already were.
Yeah.
When I took testosterone, and I don't know if it's like this for anyone else, but every time it was time for my shot, I had like this hour long, like, I'm on high, I feel great,
Yeah.
no one touch me, I'm amazing. And then
Yeah.
I would crash into
Crash.
the ground. It was so bad. So like I was doing that crash, but for like 2 weeks. Um, Eventually, I'd say it took about a year
Mhm,
for my voice to kind of turn into what it is now, because it
mhm,
was deeper when I was on testosterone.
mhm.
And I actually kind of like my voice now.
Yeah.
It
No, you
matches
sound great. You don't sound
Thank
like a tranny. Like, I have a tranny voice. You don't have any of that.
So that was the one thing I will tell you. I trained my voice as well as I told my family and my friends, I don't want the trainee voice. And I love to sing. And so
Oh,
I had to like sing every day in
yeah,
order to find a new singing voice because if
yeah,
not, it was gonna go on forever. Um, but like my voice kind of went a little higher, and then my fat distribution, obviously that changed somewhat
yep,
because that's the only other thing that's really reversible. My
that's
face
right.
isn't as square as it was. My face was fat. It was I was I didn't break out as bad as a lot of people do, but I had more acne than I thought I would when I was on.
Sure.
But I mean, my jaw was like out here. My face was puffy. I had like the trans man swell going on.
That's
You know,
bloat. That's what happens with tea. You actually can bloat. It's these are the things they don't talk about,
no,
right? Like all the
I was
nasty side effects of testosterone.
no. They didn't tell me I was gonna sweat every 5 minutes, and I was gonna like I had no idea. I'm like, why is it so hot in here? And it's like a little.
Oh my god, hilarious. I mean, really, these are I have been dealing with it 30 fucking years. I'm sweating
Yeah,
now, kiddo.
yeah,
That being said, I remember I transitioned at the age of 30.
yeah.
That's why these young people don't like me because I have a lot of experience and I'm only here to help you. I am not here to tell you not to transition ever.
Mhm.
But for some reason, that's what they seem to hear from me. I'm saying, slow the heck down, kiddo. You're not in a
Yeah.
hurry and you will make a mistake when you rush. I mean, you just proved it.
Yes, I consider my transition, while it was a mistake, I'm happy that I at least feel strong enough to tell my story so I can stop someone else from doing what I did.
You're great.
You know, like I feel bad because I have 2 kids, and they've always called me dada because I
Hmm.
transitioned when they were very little, and
Hmm.
they have hearing loss, so they have speech delay. Dada
Hmm.
was easier. Okay,
Hmm.
cool.
Sure.
Now I'm coming back being mom, and it's
Hmm.
like kind of confusing because they're 5 and 6. And I'm like,
Okay.
this is weird because I never explained to them what trans was. It just was the way that I was. It was just
Yeah,
the way that I lived my life,
that's right.
you know? I I I don't know,
But
man.
you
There's just
could still be dada. I don't honestly, personally don't think that that's a problem. It's just not. I wouldn't even stress that. Who cares?
yeah.
Honestly, I don't think mixing up the kids is gonna help.
No, and I think I think one thing that I like to say is that while I didn't have gender dysphoria, I
Mm,
100% had body dysmorphia. And that's getting lost in translation somewhere
that's right.
where we have body dysmorphia and they're like,
That's
oh,
right.
well, it's just gender dysphoria. It's like,
No, it's
no,
not.
it's not.
No, it's not.
It's not.
Yeah.
And I have more bottom dysphoria now than I did that when before I didn't have any bottom dysphoria before transition. I
Oh
didn't have any.
God.
None.
Oh,
I was like, "Oh, I never bottom surgery. I don't have any bottom dysphoria. I use what I got. I don't care. I don't want that down there. Like, I don't care." And now I it's very like sometimes can be uncomfortable because you know how it is.
of course.
Right. And so
That's right.
it's very uncomfortable at times. And
That's right.
I think another reason I wanted to be on T was because I didn't want a period.
Okay. Yeah. No, who does? So
Yeah.
so let me ask you this. Do you think a lot because it's mostly young girls. Do you notice that? It's
Oh,
mostly there's not a lot of young boys. It is really massively young girls. Tell me what you think. What do you think you're about that?
yeah. So I also have said to people, you notice that it's young girls. It's not boys running around saying they want to
Yeah,
be. That
that's
doesn't
right.
happen to girls. Um, I think it has a lot to do with the fact that when girls are young, they don't have chests, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, now I have boobs,
Mm,
and uncomfortable, and they hurt, and you don't fit your favorite clothing the same anymore, and then you get curves, or sometimes you don't get curves, or you some people get body hair, some people don't get body hair, some people just have more masculine girls have masculine faces, and
yeah,
so they're like, oh, well, I have a masculine face, so I must be a boy. I was supposed to be born a boy. And I don't get it. Like I never even thought of what trans was as a little kid. Like I didn't even think I
that's
was a
right.
boy when I was a little kid. I don't know when you realized you were trans. I know a lot of people say they knew when they were younger, and I'm not discounting them at all. But I'm just saying, like at 2 or 3 years old, I didn't
You don't
have
know.
to think that.
No, let me tell you this. So again, I'm 60, so I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I felt like a little boy, but it wasn't that I never said I felt trans. This is how I know something's weird. These
Yeah,
kids are saying, I always knew I was trans. No, you didn't. That's not true. Kids will say I feel like a boy or I feel like a girl, and that's very normal. I mean,
yeah,
it's just normal. We see come around kids all the time. They just are very fluid in their presentation. So
yeah,
that being said, that's why I always think, wait a minute, what's this thing? I think I'm trans, or I want to be trans, or trans is an identity choice. I don't identify as trans, I identify as a male who is a transsexual, if that makes sense. And so this is
yeah,
where the disconnect I have with this whole thing. I always felt that masculine space. In fact, I lived as a lesbian for many years of my life. And so I really did experience life and then really realized this isn't I do need to become a man. That's why I take full
yeah,
responsibility for my transition,
yeah.
right?
Of
Yeah.
course. And
Yeah.
like for me, I feel like when I was on hormones, that was one of the also darkest times in my life.
Mm,
Um, doing that were out of character. I made an OF, which was like not me at all.
wow.
Like
Wow.
I'm this person. I don't like sharing those things. But
Yeah.
since I had people saying, "Oh, you're so attractive," and what does it look like down there and stuff, I was like, "Well, I'm gonna get paid for it then," because
Wow. Wow.
like, but I hated myself. Like I did
Wow.
who I was, and it wasn't until my current relationship that I really was able to just be Parker and not have to worry if I was a trans man or a woman or whatever. Like
That's
I could
right.
be myself, and that's why, like, when I talk about my identity, because people are like, well, what do you identify as? I'm like, well, I know I'm a biological woman, but I'm just androgynous. You can call me non-binary. I don't care.
Right
um,
on.
I'm just Parker. I'm just me.
That's right. That's what we need to start giving kids this space that you don't need to do all this insane stuff to your body, to play with stuff, play with gender. So I feel like the kids are being forced into this space by other people.
I
That's what
feel
I
it. I and I don't agree with. This is my opinion. I don't
sure.
want the school or the teacher teaching my kid about gender identity. That's not their job. That's
That's
my
not
like. my kid, if they are confused or they want to ask me a question, I am completely open, and more parents need to be more open
That's
because
right.
there are some parents that won't talk about it at all. And then there's
That's right.
people who are like, well, the school just needs to teach it. And I'm like, no, they
No.
don't, because they're not going to teach it half and halfway. They're going to teach it completely, like full force. If you feel
Yeah.
like a boy, you're a boy, and that's okay. And I'm like, stop it.
Stop it. I
That
mean,
dude,
so let
hate
me
it.
ask you this. What do you think's gonna happen with all these kids that followed you? And tell me what the age group was that was you were around.
So as young as I used to do Zoom calls during the pandemic, and I would have all ages and then 18 plus, right? And so my all ages Zoom calls would be a group of people, and they were from like 10 years old, which are not even supposed to be on TikTok.
No.
10 years old. The oldest people that followed me were probably in their 60s. So I mean, and it was majority of, guess what? Women. Women
Of
and trans.
course. Of course.
That's and the occasional gay man because he was curious, I guess. I
Of
don't know.
course. Yeah,
But,
of course.
but
Yeah.
um,
Wow.
yeah, I would get
And on the
uncomfortable.
Zoom calls, what would you do?
So I would just go on Zoom and everyone would have their mics muted, and I would let one person ask me a question, and then I'd answer, and then I'd let another person ask me a question and answer. That's what we were doing. And I had a couple of other adults to make sure like things were being monitored or whatever. Um, but what I would find in these Zoom calls were these young kids telling me, like, this one, I think she said she was 10. She's like, yeah, I told my mom I'm pansexual. And I'm like, I didn't even know what pansexual was until I was like 27. Okay. Like, I had no idea what that was. And then I would have kids come up and go, like, you inspire me to be who I am. And I realized I was trans because of you. And that would make me feel bad. Like, I didn't feel good. And I'm like, I don't want to be your reason. I don't I want you to realize you're trans because you're actually trans, not because, oh, I saw Parker doing a TikTok and he says he's trans. Like, I didn't want that. And
Mhm.
it made me uncomfortable. Like, but at the same time, I was dealing with, oh, like, I'm helping people.
That's right.
And so yeah, great. And so it was a constant struggle. And anytime I tried to talk to any of my friends at the time about it, they'd be like, Parker, you know you're trans, you know you're a man, just stop. And it's like, that's not what I needed. That's not what I needed.
Wow. I mean, gosh, you don't know. You're saying things so many of the other detransitioners say to me. They just got this, the push. And if they tried to go back, people would get kind of mad at them and be like, no, 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 you're totally trans. I
Yeah.
want to know what's happening. So do any of those people try to contact you
No,
or
no, they don't really talk to me. I've cut a lot of them out of my life because they ended up being toxic people in
yeah.
general.
Were they mad
Um,
at you?
when I detransitioned,
Yeah.
yeah, I felt a sense of disappointment. I felt like they were like, well, it took me so long to call you he. Now I have to call you she. Like, I'm just going to go with they. She is too hard. And I'm like, but he
What?
wasn't hard.
But that's so about them. You see,
Right.
it's a very narcissistic movement. It's
Yeah,
completely about them. You are validating them. It's all, so you see what I mean? That they get this from you. And if you detrans, it totally reminds me of drug addiction. Like when you're like, because I was a full on hardcore crackhead, right? So if you don't, when you do drugs, you want other people to do drugs. It validates your drug usage. It feels very similar to that. Like, come on, dude, just try it once, and then you can't leave because you're
right.
now become addicted to this feeling.
That's what it felt like. Like, it was like I was friends with all these other trans creators, these trans men. And then I got sucked into the whole like passing thing
Yep,
and
yep,
all of that. And it was like, then I would get this like jealousy because
mhm,
these trans men would pass so well and
mhm,
I wasn't. And I
mhm.
was like, I just must not be good enough. I'm not manly enough. I'm not this, I'm not that. And I look back at it and I'm like, man, that was wild. Like, I
Wow.
was so mentally ill, and I'm so much better now that I'm like on medication and I see a therapist, and I don't talk
Mhm.
about her. I talk about my real life struggles, and I talk
Yeah,
about BPD and my anxiety and my depression. And I
yeah,
also believe that my childhood sexual assault played a huge role in me transitioning.
that's right.
And people won't talk about that. Not that they
No,
need to talk about what they went through, but just to be honest and be like, yeah, you know what? I was afraid of men, and so I turned into one. Or I, went through an assault that involved my chest, so I removed it. Those are things, those are connections I'm making every day.
Yeah,
And like, okay, this makes sense, and it's
that's
just
right.
sad. These people, they don't like to say, when people say you're mutilating your body, but these people that are doing these surgeries without actually thinking about it, they are like, I mutilated my body and
Wow.
watched surgery. So, like,
That's a very powerful statement you just made, just so you know.
yeah,
And, I don't use that word mutilation because I don't feel that way in my own body, right?
yeah,
I feel very comfortable being this man, and
right.
why it's important for people to see me and you side by side. Somebody who it actually worked out for in 30 years of
Yeah,
transition, and then a person of your age, it didn't work out. And I can show you why. I went through a whole system. I had to live as a man before I could even start taking testosterone. I had to go to 2 years of therapy. They pushed back on me. I went to actual real therapy, right? Not affirmation therapy. So
yeah,
there's a big difference in the way I did it, which clearly works, and the
yeah.
way you did it. You were never trans,
No,
ever,
no, there
ever.
was trans bone in my body. Like
Nope.
it was just they were really. I think when I decided to go on testosterone was, like I said, the height of TikTok when it started to blow up, and I feel like they were starting to get more patients, and they were just like,
That's
"Yep,
right.
okay, sure." And when I remember being so shocked because they told me it was going to take forever to get into this gender clinic, right? Took me 2 weeks. I waited the 2 weeks. And then I get there, and I was told by other people, "Yeah, it's probably gonna take you a few days to get your prescription." When she was literally like, "Yeah, do you want your shot right now? We can show you." And I was like, "Okay, yeah, of course."
Oh my god, how is this legal? I don't understand how this is actually legal.
Get
This is
around
sick.
they get around it because of informed consent. Because
But you
I
were
signed
not informed. But you were
yeah,
not informed. I can show you right now by what you just told me, all the crap that happened to your body. You didn't even know. And then the stupid ass doctor when you're like, I have atrophy. Hey, don't worry about that. That is not informed consent.
no, no, and it was really like it was really weird. It was a crazy time in my life, and I'm so happy I decided to go off the testosterone because if I had not gone off of it, um, I mean, I don't even know if I'd be alive honestly because my eating habits and I wasn't exercising. I was just gaining weight and gaining weight and
Yeah,
gaining weight,
yeah.
and I had a heart attack
Oh
at an
my
early.
god. They
They
should have
didn't
never given you surgery at that size, and they used to never touch people who were over a certain amount. And testosterone puts weight on you. It's whether you have to exercise, but they don't even tell you that, do they?
no, she did not
Nope.
tell me I need to exercise.
Wow.
She just don't eat a super unhealthy diet, but that's the same for everyone. And you might get diabetes if you eat poorly. And I was like, might get diabetes? I never heard about this before. Like, what do you mean I
Oh
might
my
get diabetes?
god. I swear to God, my friend, this is so absurd and sick, and you are such a hero. I'm just gonna keep telling you, you are a fucking hero, my friend, because this is what we need. I need for people to hear this. I'm not against transitioning in any way, shape, or form. What I'm against is this. I'm against this. This is not right. So many of you kids are gonna be, you watch, you mark my words, and you know I'm right. These kids are
Oh,
all gonna end up detransitioning and being a complete mess.
yeah, they are. And it's sad because it's like, don't do something permanent to your body unless you
God.
are 120% sure. And even if you think you're sure, get more therapy. Like I can't stress that enough.
I
Like
know.
I thought I was sure, and I wasn't. It,
And you
it
didn't go
all
through therapy. They didn't even
no.
ask you to go through therapy.
No, she said you might want to get a therapist because you're going to get angry a lot faster to things. But like, oh,
What? What?
I don't, I'm like, I don't need therapy for anger. No, I needed it for everything else.
So, can I ask you about your partner? Is your partner male or female?
Male.
Male. Great. And
Yeah,
then he's super cool with what's
yeah.
going on with you.
No, yeah. When I met him, I was out as trans, obviously, and that was one of the first things I told him was like, yeah, just so you know, I'm trans. He's like, oh,
Mhm,
okay. Like, I don't
mhm,
care. One of my exes was trans,
mhm,
whatever.
mhm.
And then probably a few months before I decided to detransition, when I was in the detrans Reddit, I would like read things to him and I would like drop subtle hints because I was like, I know he's pansexual, but like, I don't know how he's gonna feel if I
Yeah.
detransition. Like, I don't know how I would feel about that. And not that real at the end, it doesn't really matter because I'm gonna do what's best for me. But I wanted to
That's
know, how he would feel.
of course.
And when I told him, he was like, "Yeah, I kind of figured this was coming because you were talking about it so much." And he was like, I love you no matter
Wow.
what. I don't
Oh,
care, man, and whatever, like whatever. He's like, I just want you to do what makes you happy and makes you feel good and makes you feel comfortable in your body. And so, like I said,
beautiful.
he made me comfortable with my top surgery scar because it's my biggest insecurity.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
people don't always see, but I see it. And being intimate with someone, they see your body. And I have very bad, I don't even know if I can call these dog ears because they're giant. And it makes me sad, like,
Oh gosh, my friend, of course it does. There's no I mean, God, I just sending you tons of love around that. Of course it does. It's not right that that doctor did that and then makes you feel more uncomfortable with your body on some level. Did have you tried again to reach back to that doctor?
yeah. So after I healed up from surgery and everything, and I was looking at my chest and I realized how bad my dog ears were, I
Mhm.
reached out to them, to their
Yeah,
side, their secretary,
yeah.
and she said, "Yeah, Dr. Wolf's no longer doing revisions." And I was
Uh,
like,
but that's illegal. That has to be illegal. That there's no way you can operate on somebody and do plastic surgery, which is this is what that is, and then just say, "Well, you're on your own, dude." Like, "No, I'm not. I paid X amount of dollars to get this thing done." Do you mind
"Yeah,
me asking how much the surgery was?
yeah, it was $6,500,
Yeah.
$500 deposit, 6,000 for the surgery."
Yep. So how much these doctors are making off this trans community is insane.
Yeah, because I didn't go through insurance, right? So, like, that came out of pocket.
That's
Yes,
right. Cash.
but that was cash, like,
That's
that.
right.
And then I asked him about my nipples too. I was like, "Am I gonna have any nipple sensation left?"
Yeah.
And he, "Oh, 85% of my patients get their nipple sensation." I feel nothing. Like, I feel a little bit of stuff, but, like, not what I
Not like
used.
it was, not like what it was. No,
No,
not at
no.
all.
And
S
and I was like,
Wow.
okay. And just the whole process of being, like, thrown out of the doctor's office into a car after
Yep,
being sliced open, and then, "Oh, come back in 2 weeks," and
yep,
it was
yep.
just it was a terrible experience.
My
And
God.
I really wish I would have done more part of it is my fault, I take blame because I didn't do more research about having such a big chest.
Right.
Trusted that my doctor had all of his results on it, and I now realize that he doesn't.
Well, I mean, that's big of you to say that, but I'm gonna tell you, I blame the doctor. Like, that is the doctor, they're the medical professional, they're supposed to be there's it's called integrity, and it's
Mm,
called do no harm, and they've lost their way, these doctors, they're all about making money. I don't care, this whole trans medical stuff is a scam,
yeah.
and now everyone's a trans top surgery doctor. What does that even mean? Like, what are you talking like, I'm what if you woulda gotten bottom surgery?
Oof.
I mean
I I've seen someone on YouTube, I forget their name,
Mhm,
but they got on hormones at like 17,
mhm.
got top surgery at like 18 or 19, and then got bottom surgery by the time they were 20. And at 21, they came out and they were like, this was all related to trauma, and now I hate what I have because I can't get what I had back.
No, you can't. That's
And
like, what the
I,
fuck?
I my gosh, like, I'm so happy that I always in my brain was like, I don't want bottom surgery. I don't want bottom
Yeah,
surgery because
yeah.
that would have been huge. You know what I mean?
Forget
That would
it.
have been more life changing for me.
I mean, on so many levels. I have a friend, I don't know if you know Scott Nugent. He talks
Mm,
a lot about this and how he got so nailed from it and it just ruined his life. And not to say now, I don't want anyone to think I'm anti-bottom surgery. I am not. But if that's your choice as an adult. But we
yeah.
need to talk about it is not what people think it is. It's hardly
Mm.
functioning on some level and it's very
I
expensive.
For me, one of the parts that stopped me from doing that, other than the fact that I was like, "Oh, I don't have really bottom dysphoria,"
Yeah.
um, was the fact that it wasn't functioning. It wasn't
Yeah.
what I
That's right.
envisioned in my what it would be. And
Yeah.
people also used to get mad at me because they say, "Don't you wish you were born cis?" And I would respond with, "No, like, don't you wish you were born a cis man?" And I was like, "No, like, not really."
Wow.
That was
Just
probably
wow.
indicators for myself that I should have been like, "Oh, I'm not trans." But, you know, it didn't click. It
Of
didn't
course,
click.
no, 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 none of it's gonna click for you, my friend, when you have all these people just praising you, and I mean, that's the thing, I'm watching it, these kids get praised, and that's why they don't like people like me or Blair White or whoever are just saying, "Hold up here, what are you talking about?" You know, you don't just become trans, it's not an identity choice, it is not, it is a medical condition, and that's why they took out gender dysphoria, right? You don't need gender dysphoria to be trans, anyone can be trans. I'm like, "Well, then it's not trans, it's body modification and all other kinds of things, you know," and
Yeah,
clearly
some
all these kids have these, they all have, I'm gonna tell you, most of these kids haven't been, you know, diagnosed with any of the things you've been diagnosed with, and sexual trauma.
yes, that's a huge one.
Huge.
And the whole you don't have to have dysphoria to be trans. I've never agreed with that. Even when I was trans, like that
Yeah,
still blew my mind because it was like,
yeah,
how do you not have gender dysphoria but you're trans? And
yeah.
someone argued with me the one day and was like, well, because when they wear male clothing or have short hair, then they experience euphoria. And I said, that has nothing to do with that. That has nothing to do with trans, my guy.
What
Like,
is euphoria? What? How is euphoria? My gosh, these, see what they're doing though? They're changing the narrative to fit, you know, they're changing it to fit their own sort of insecurity about wanting to be trans so bad. You
yeah,
amassed a huge following, my friend. That's just incredible to me how you, people just, and your partner had like 7 million followers.
my kid's dad, so he's not my partner now, but he's my ex. He has 7.7 million followers right now, and they were
Wow.
all involved. They were all because you know he was starting to do vlogs about me getting top surgery, and I was in all of his
Wow.
videos, and so then people were coming in my videos, and so it was just like I couldn't get away from it. I couldn't
Yeah.
truly like step back. And when I said I was going off testosterone, I mean that in itself, people were having like they were freaking out. Why would you do that? If you're trans, why would you go off testosterone? And I'm like, do y'all realize that like some people can't take hormones the rest of their life? Like
That's right.
it doesn't mix
But
well with
that's where the cult aspect comes in for me. That's so culty. It's like when you
yeah,
try to leave a good luck leaving a cult, they come after you. Like, this is what I feel like. You're like leaving, and everyone's like, ah, I'm gonna get you. You can't leave. Like, no, it's so real. I mean, you just
no,
nailed it on the, because it is. They don't want you to leave. They, why don't you want somebody to be healthy? If they really cared about you, which they clearly don't, then
no,
they would have been like, okay, dude, that's what you need to do. Like, we totally support it. That's why I care for you. I care about all you people who are being put. It has nothing to do with my transition in any way, shape, or form. It has to
yeah,
do with having empathy for other people's journeys that where they should have never been. It makes me sad because it worked out for me and it didn't work out for you. So what's happening when kids are attacking you because you're leaving the trans
yeah.
space? Weird. So we're gonna go, but listen, everybody, you send Parker a lot of love. I'll put whatever she wants me to put on the comments down there. So if you want to reach out, probably you don't have social media. I hope not. Well, I think you contact me on Instagram.
No, no. Yeah, yeah, I do. I have Instagram just because I draw. I started drawing and I really like drawing. And so if anyone out there like they're thinking about detransitioning, I'm totally fine talking you through that. Like that's no problem.
Excellent.
Like I'm
Oh, you mean a lot to me, kiddo. You really do. And it takes a lot of guts to stand here and have this conversation with me. So, thanks everybody for watching. Send a lot of love to Parker. She really is putting some stuff out there that will save lives. So, with that, I'll see you guys next week.